Wedding Day Reckoning, voiceover script. Margaret smiled as she watched her son Tyler trying on his new suit. Tall, handsome, dark-haired. Tomorrow her boy was getting married. She could hardly believe it. Tyler studied his reflection in the mirror, then nodded with satisfaction. The suit fit perfectly. "Sharp suit," he said, turning to his mother. "Great color, looks expensive." "It is expensive," Margaret thought, but out loud she said, "I'm so glad you like it. I'm definitely gonna cry at the wedding when I see you all dressed up." At the wedding, Tyler finally looked away from the mirror. "Mom, you're not actually planning to come, are you? We agreed you wouldn't be there." "Agreed. Honey, I thought you were kidding." "Kidding? Are you serious?" Her son started pacing nervously around the room. "Have you forgotten what Jessica's parents are like? The wedding's gonna be packed with elite society people. You'll feel like the poor relative. I'll be stressed out about you the whole time." "Mom, do you really want to ruin the most important day of my life?" Her son sat down next to Margaret on the couch. He took her hand and squeezed it gently. "Mom, just imagine how out of place you'll look next to all those wealthy women in their designer outfits. It'll break my heart to see you humiliated like that. Jess and I will come visit you the next day, okay? We'll have some tea or champagne. You can congratulate us and give us your gift then." Margaret's heart clenched with hurt. Her own son was so ashamed of her that he was willing to look like an orphan at his own wedding. "Why would I look out of place?" his mother objected. "I made an appointment with a good stylist for my hair. I'll get my nails done. I'll wear a nice dress." "What nice dress? That old blue rag?" Tyler snapped and started pacing around the room again. "Okay, here's the deal." He stopped in front of his mother. "Since you don't get it the nice way, I'll spell it out for you. I don't want to see you at the wedding. Yeah, I'm a jerk, but I'm ashamed that my mom is a janitor. I don't want you embarrassing me in front of Jessica's family with your homeless-looking appearance. Is that clear enough?" Margaret, stunned by her son's confession, couldn't say a word. Tyler silently grabbed his backpack, the garment bag with his suit, and headed for the door. He stopped at the threshold. "I'm saying this one more time. Don't come to the ceremony. Nobody there will be happy to see you." Tyler had left several hours ago, darkness had fallen outside, and Margaret was still sitting on the couch in complete shock. She couldn't even cry from the shock. The tears came a little later, when the woman turned on the light and pulled out an old album with family photos from the dresser. This album contained her entire simple life. Memories came crashing down on Margaret with such force that it was hard to breathe. An old, worn photograph. A blue-eyed 2-year-old girl stares intently at the camera. A colorful dress clearly handed down from someone else. Next to her, a thin, strange woman, a vacant stare, a foolish smile. Even in the poor-quality photo, you could tell the woman was drunk. Margaret was 2.5 years old when her mother lost custody, and she disappeared from her daughter's life forever. When she grew up, the girl didn't even try to find her worthless mother. What was the point? A group photograph. 10-year-old Maggie with unruly golden curls stands in the second row, third from the left. Life in the children's home was no picnic. The institution where Margaret grew up was exactly like those troubled shelters from documentaries filmed during the rough 90s. Cooks stole food, staff yelled and cursed, the director encouraged bullying. She didn't care at all what methods the older kids used to maintain discipline. 3 pretty young women in waitress uniforms pose playfully for the photographer on the porch of an establishment with a slightly crooked sign. After finishing high school, Margaret didn't overthink her career choice. She quickly found work as a waitress at a roadside diner with the fitting name, The Roadside. The owner paid a small wage, but a waitress's main income was tips, and pretty, energetic Margaret's customers tipped generously. The 12-hour shifts were exhausting, but the girl didn't let it get her down. Independent life suited Margaret. The room she got in the shared apartment was spacious and bright. The neighbors, an elderly couple, turned out to be friendly. Margaret had money, even if not much. Plus, she unexpectedly discovered a talent, the ability to dress well on next to nothing. The girl bought clothes at thrift stores and altered them, turning used items into fashionable pieces. A summer clearing in the woods. A happy, laughing Margaret in a large wreath of flowers and leaves sits on the green grass. A handsome, dark-haired guy in a similar wreath has his arm around her shoulders. So many years had passed, and Margaret's heart still skipped a beat when she saw this photo. She'd been working at the roadside diner for about a year when she met Daniel. That summer morning, the diner was surprisingly crowded. Margaret rushed around the room with a tray, serving impatient customers. Suddenly, the girl tripped on flat ground and spilled a glass of tomato juice on a guy sitting at a table by the window. A bright red stain slowly spread across his light-colored shirt. Margaret was horrified and lost her ability to speak. You could tell the shirt was expensive. Before she could recover, the diner owner instantly appeared at the table. Steve started fussing around the guy and yelling at the poor waitress, threatening to fire her. "Why all the drama?" The guy smirked and handed Margaret his car keys. "Don't worry about it. I'm heading to my parents' place. I've got a clean t-shirt in my car. Could you bring me the backpack from the back seat?" "I'll get it myself, Mr. Harrison." The eager Steve snatched the keys from Margaret. "Otherwise, this klutz will probably break something in your car, too." Left alone with the customer, the scared girl finally managed to apologize. "I'm so sorry. This has never happened to me before, I swear. I'll pay for the damage." "Relax, will you? What damage? It's nothing, really. By the way, what's your name?" "Margaret." "I'm Daniel." He extended his hand. Timidly shaking the stranger's hand, Margaret dared to look at his face for the first time. An attractive guy. Tall, athletic, gray eyes with a hint of amusement, an easy, charming smile. The owner brought the customer his backpack and offered to show him where he could clean up. Passing by Margaret, Steve asked sarcastically, "Why are you just standing there? Is your shift over already?" She was getting payment from a couple in love when she heard a cheerful voice behind her. "Margaret, could you spare me a minute?" She turned around. Daniel, in a fresh blue t-shirt, was sitting at the same table. "Can you take my order?" "Of course." Serving the attractive customer, the girl felt self-conscious. Her cheeks burned. Steve personally walked the guy to the door. Then he winked at Margaret. "Don't take it personally. I was yelling at you on purpose, in case he tried to make you pay for the shirt. It costs more than your salary." "How do you know this guy?" "That's Daniel Harrison, the mayor's son. Every dog in town knows him." By evening, Margaret was so tired from the hours of rushing around that she'd forgotten all about the morning incident. She had one desire: to get home as fast as possible and collapse into bed. It was already dark outside. Who knew how long she'd have to wait for the bus? Suddenly, a silver sedan pulled up to the diner. Margaret instinctively stepped back toward the porch, but looking closer, she recognized the car. Wonder what the mayor's son forgot here. Daniel jumped out of the car, grabbed a large bouquet from the seat, and walked straight toward Margaret. Coming right up to the astonished girl, he put the flowers in her hands. "Done with work? Sorry, I didn't know what kind of bouquets you like, so I went with the classic white roses. I promise I'll only give you your favorite flowers from now on." From now on, the waitress was completely confused. "Why?" "What do you mean why?" Daniel laughed. "I'm courting you. By the way, it's such a beautiful evening. Want to go somewhere?" Margaret had already forgotten how desperately tired she'd been. Everything happening right now seemed like a magical dream. The girl suddenly realized she was ready to go anywhere with this guy, but fortunately remembered in time how unpresentable she looked. Old jeans, a plain t-shirt, her hair a mess. "Thanks, but I'm really exhausted. I can't today," Margaret said regretfully. "Tomorrow then." Daniel didn't give up. "Tomorrow then," the girl echoed. The next day they met, never to part again. It was love at first sight. Daniel, an economics major, had successfully passed his summer exams, and the couple started seeing each other daily. In July, the guy took Margaret on vacation. She didn't have a passport, so they spent 10 magical days in Miami Beach. Daniel introduced his girlfriend to his college friends. The fun group often went to the beach together and had barbecues. It was the brightest, most carefree, and most unforgettable summer of Margaret's life. She never experienced such unrestrained happiness again. The couple had already started talking about marriage, but in the fall, all their bright plans for the future collapsed overnight. One day, Daniel's cousin saw her brother on the street with a modestly dressed stranger. From that moment, Margaret's life turned into hell. The Harrison family was categorically against their only son's relationship with some penniless girl from foster care. Daniel's mother, his aunt, his grandmother called Margaret daily. They showered the girl with insults and threats, demanding she leave their boy alone. Daniel's cousin showed up at the diner and caused a terrible scene, throwing a milkshake in the waitress's face. The old ladies on the bench near her building told her that some people had spent an hour asking them questions about Margaret. About 2 weeks before Daniel's departure, Margaret's phone rang. "This is Robert Harrison," she heard a stern male voice on the line. "I'm Daniel's father. You need to break up with my son before he leaves. Tell him you've got another man. If you ignore my words, you'll regret it bitterly." And without waiting for an answer, the mayor hung up. Margaret was ready to give her life for Daniel. How could she give up someone she loved so desperately? When her boyfriend flew to London, events started happening around the girl at cosmic speed, events she still remembers like a nightmare. Steve, bribed by the city's mayor, suddenly accused the waitress of a major cash shortage, and the girl was arrested. Margaret was so shocked by her boss's vile act that she didn't even arrange for proper legal defense when the case was quickly sent to court. She had no doubt that the truth would come out very soon and these horrible charges would be dropped. The trial was a farce. The public defender assigned to the girl practically slept through the proceedings, but the prosecutor gave it his all. Every day Margaret waited for Daniel to appear and save her, but a friend told her that rumor had it the guy was planning to continue his studies in England. Margaret got 3 years. Already in prison, she learned she was pregnant. About the time spent in the women's prison, the woman forbade herself to remember. Too painful. Overcome with despair, she quickly turned the page of the family album. A dark-haired, gray-eyed baby. Margaret tenderly stroked the photograph. What an affectionate and bright little boy her son had been. Only God knows what it cost her to raise the boy alone. Margaret served 18 months, then was released on parole. The girl was incredibly lucky they didn't take her child away. In freedom, a whole heap of problems crashed down on her head. Nobody wanted to hire a young woman with a small child, especially one with a criminal record. Thank God, her neighbor Jacob helped get little Tyler into daycare through his adult student. Now Margaret could work around the clock. She worked as a janitor at a restaurant, cleaned local offices in the evenings, worked at a car wash on weekends, and sewed pillowcases and sheets at night. Margaret didn't look back at the past. Why cause herself extra pain? While the woman was serving her sentence, all old connections were severed. Once she accidentally ran into a former friend, who told her that Steve, the owner of the roadside diner, had gone bankrupt. Mayor Harrison had moved with his family to New York after getting a promotion, and his son had married a city beauty a year ago. Margaret cried all night, then wiped her tears and went to mop floors at the restaurant. She had to raise her son. From now on, that was her only concern and joy. Dawn was breaking outside. Had Margaret really sat with the album all night? She lay down to sleep, but thoughts of her son wouldn't let her rest. She'd always tried so hard to please him with an expensive toy, delicious food, trendy clothes. She was ready to kill herself just to fulfill all his wishes. Within reason, of course. If Tyler needed a new gadget, he'd calmly announce it to his mother, knowing she'd definitely find the money. Worst case, she'd take on mopping floors at yet another place. Of course, Margaret bore some guilt for Tyler growing up to be such an unfeeling egotist. She never complained to him about being tired, never took sick days, always pushed the best pieces of food toward him at dinner. No wonder the guy never once thought about what it cost his mother to earn money. And now her own son was ashamed of Margaret and didn't want a pathetic janitor present at his wedding ceremony. "Well, here we are," Margaret sighed bitterly, then addressed Tyler's portrait hanging on the wall. "Son, I've indulged you in everything for 25 years, but this time I'm going to do what I want. Please forgive me." The woman got up from the bed and pulled out a box where she kept her savings old-school style. Plus, there was a month's salary on her card, enough for an outfit, hair, and a beautician. Margaret's appearance at City Hall caused a real sensation. She'd always looked young for her age, and after visiting the beauty salon, she looked like she'd shed 10 years. The male guests kept sneaking glances at the slender, blonde woman in the gorgeous blue dress. During the ceremony, the mother wiped away tears as she admired her serious, slightly bewildered son and his charming bride. She was so glad she'd come here. Then all the guests congratulated the newlyweds. Tyler quietly made his way through the crowd to his mother and hissed, "So my request means nothing to you? I hope you're not planning to drag yourself to the reception. I'm not dragging myself anywhere, Margaret nodded. I've already seen everything I wanted to see. Hello, a flushed and happy Jessica bounced over to them. Margaret, you look absolutely stunning. My parents are inviting you to ride with them to the reception. Thank you, but I really need to go. What do you mean go? Jessica was indignant. Tyler, what's going on? Yeah, Mom, where are you rushing off to? Your only son's getting married after all, Tyler said with a forced smile, inviting his mother to the reception. When it was time for the parents to toast the newlyweds, Margaret took the microphone. Kids, be happy and love each other for your whole lives. Margaret's short speech had so much genuine feeling that the guests gave her a standing ovation. Coming down from the small stage, the woman nearly collided with a tall man in an expensive suit. His face seemed familiar. It couldn't be. It can't be, Daniel said out loud, blocking her path. Maggie, is that really you? What are you doing here, Daniel? Margaret couldn't believe her eyes. The bride's father is my business partner. He invited me to the wedding. You have such a handsome son, Daniel said, taking Margaret's hand nervously. Can we step over by the window and talk? Are you here alone, without your wife? I've been divorced for 10 years, no kids. They talked for a whole hour. Daniel told her how his father had flown to see him abroad and told him that Margaret had met another guy and moved with him to New York. Shocked, Daniel didn't believe his father. Afraid to insult his girlfriend with offensive suspicions, he first decided to find out the truth from his best friend. His buddy went to the roadside diner but didn't find the girl there. The owner and waitresses all confirmed the information he'd gotten from his father. I almost went crazy with grief then. I stayed in England for another 6 months. And from there I went straight to New York. Dad got promoted. Then I got married. Was I happy all those years? Not for a minute. Only when I was young, with you. So how have you been living all this time? Let's not talk about sad things, Margaret suggested. It's a wedding after all. I'll tell you everything later, but right now, ask me to dance. The guests couldn't take their eyes off the mature, beautiful couple waltzing around the floor. Tyler watched his mother and didn't recognize her. He suddenly thought that his mom was a very attractive woman who'd given up her personal life when she was still young for her son's sake. For him, for the first time in his life, Tyler felt truly ashamed of himself. Then the guy noticed that his mom, arm in arm with some rich-looking dude, was heading for the exit. Tyler caught up with her on the porch. Moms, where are you going? I'm leaving. You wanted this so badly, his mother reminded him. Mom, I'm sorry, but where are you going with that guy? I'm ready to go anywhere with this man, Margaret admitted sincerely. By the way, meet your father. Daniel and Tyler stared at Margaret in shock. After a brief silence, she decisively shook her head and smiled. I think the three of us have a very long and difficult conversation ahead of us.